Hello everyone, welcome to Programming Pool channel and welcome to Learn Java course. In this video, we'll talk about arrays. We'll start with theory part, then we will go to a coding part as usual. But before we start and dive into the concepts, don't forget to subscribe to this channel so you will not miss any upcoming videos. What are arrays? An array is a type of data structure constructed in memory. It is a named set of contiguous memory cells. Contiguous means one solid block of cells with no gaps. Can be used to store either primitives, data type, such as ints and doubles, or object data types, such as strings. From the picture here to the right, you can visualize an array, a row of boxes or elements, each one with an index number. Okay, so you can see the boxes. Each box is considered as an element, and each element has an index. Okay, so the index here is 0, then 1, 2. And the first index in array start from 0. So it's not from 1, it's from 0. Okay, data type in array may not be mixed in an element of the array. What does it mean? That means we can't put one element as an int and then we put the other or the next element as a double value. Okay? And why is that? Because an int uses 32 bits, right? And double uses 64 bits. Each element in array has to be the same size as the one next to it. Okay? Arrays are homogeneous with respect to data type. This means all the data values must be of the same type. Each element has an index number again. First element starts from 0. Why arrays? Arrays are useful for storing large number of values or objects in a memory during program execution. To store a value, we declare a variable and then assign it a value. This is the regular way how we declare a variable. Sometimes declaring a variable for each value you want to store is not just a practical. For example, if you have a tosses simulator and you do 10,000 of tosses and you want to store all the tosses in the program, I don't think that it's very practical to create a 10,000 variable and store the values there. So an array will be a very good option. The operator we use in creating an array is square brackets. Here is the square brackets, also called the array index operator. Declaring arrays. So as we know, arrays are objects in Java. They are declared and then instantiated. Syntax will be data type, which means int, double, string, or so. The square brackets, then the array name. Okay, or we can use another way: data type, array name, then a square brackets. The preferred way to declare an array is data type, square brackets, and array name. This way it's very hard to not to see the brackets here, the square brackets, so it is recommended. Data type may be a primitive or an object, for example like an int or a string. The array index operator indicates that an array of specified data type will be referenced by this array name or identifier. Okay, so we have this square brackets and the array name. Now, whenever we call the array, we will call it by its name in the program after we initialize it or instantiate it. Okay. Declaring an array just reserves the array name as the identifier for the array when it is eventually created in a memory. Java doesn't allocate memory yet because the number of elements in the array has not been initialized. What does it mean? If we just type data type, square bracket, and array name, we don't have still the memory allocation for the array because we don't know yet what number of elements we have. To instantiate or build the array, we use the new keyword and then specify how many elements we want. We can do declaration and instantiation in separate lines or in one line. Example, to create an array, hold 10 values of type int will be int, the data type, the square brackets or the array indicator, brackets. My int array, assign it a value of new, this is the keyword, int, again the type, and then the square brackets inside it will be 10. A new operator causes some contiguous memory cells to be allocated to store 10 int values in an array structure. Once created, the array size is fixed or immutable, means you cannot change it. You can't change the number of elements in an array once it is created. So once the array is filled, for example, you can't add another element. So in this array, you have only 10 elements. You can't add like 11 elements. Then we will have an errors. If you need more space later, you need to create a new array or larger array. From the beginning, you can create a larger array of elements. Okay. So we have more examples of creating an array. String array will be string brackets, the name of the array, a new string 25. Array of ints, again, will be a new int and 100 of int values. A double will be double. Uh, like you see kind of brackets, the name, and then you double 350. For the scanner object, we can create scanner array, new scanner, three scanners. Where scanner is the object that get input from a console. Adding values into an array. To enter a value in any element, we use an assignment statement and specify what element gets the value. For example, if I want to add to my int array, index 0, assign the value of 5. So 5 is assigned to element 0. If you want to add to index number 7, which is assigned 456, and this is actually number 8 because we start from 0, right? Then 0, 1, 2 until the index is 7. That is the 8th element if you start from 1. But as we mentioned, array started from 0. What is the index of the number 10 then? It will be 9. Okay? There is another way to populate arrays. Java offers a shortcut way to declare, create, and populate an array all at once by enclosing the data values inside curly braces. String, the square brackets, the array, then assign it within the curly brackets the value January, February, March, and so. Okay, so we have an array starting from 0 to 11, which is 12 elements with 12 months. Okay. Note, an array object is the only other type of the object besides a string that can be created without using the new keyword. You can see here that we are not using the new keyword and we are creating actually an object. And this is the only object we can do that without new keyword. And when we create a string, as you recall, string equals, the like name or any string. There is no new keyword. Reading arrays values. We can access the value held in the array object's length variable by using the name of the array along with the dot operator. Syntax will look like array name dot length. For example, if you want to iterate through the array, so you can use for loops. Int count, assign it a value of 0. Count is less than array.length, and then count plus plus. A question here should be using a less than operator or less than or equal operator in the loop continuation condition expression. The answer will be always use less than operator, because if you use less or equal, then we will be out of bounds. We'll throw an error called out of bounds array out of bounds error. Okay, so just be careful. Don't put equal with the less than. Some tips when you loop through an array is to initialize the counter to 0, because if you initialize it to 1, you are skipping the first element. Second tip is always set the loop continuation condition expression to less than array.name.length. Why? Because if you put it less than or equals to array name.length, then you will be out of bounds exception. Okay, we are done from theory part, and let's do some coding now. Open Learn Java project, and let's start creating our first array example. It will be int array. Simple int array will be int at square brackets or array index operator. Put the name of the array, my int array. We can end the statement by semicolon. In the next line, we can instantiate the array. Okay, now my int array assign the operator new int, and then indicate how many elements you want. Then it will be 10. Let's start from 10. Then terminate the statement. And now you created your first array. You can create it and instantiate it in the first line. For example, int brackets my int array 2, assign it a value new int, and then 10 elements, and terminate the statement. So we see we have two ways of creating an array, the first way and the second way. My preferred way to do it is the second way, which is shorter. Okay, and in programming we do everything as short as we can. So let's delete the first way of creating the array. So we created our first array, which is of type int. Let's uh, loop through the array without adding any element values. Okay, let's use for loop. For int count, assign it a value of 0, then count is less than my int array dot length semicolon, then count plus plus. Let's print to the console the element will be my int array, accessing the element by adding the square brackets, and then in the square bracket we put the counter, which is starting from 0 until the count is less than array.length, the last element. Okay, let's run the code here, and the result is 0, 0, 0, 0. Okay, um, the default value of all elements is 0. We didn't initialize any element of the array, so the default value is 0. Now let's add or assign some value to the elements. Let's put my int array first element, which is 0. Okay, assign it a value of 5. Again, let's assign the seventh element a value of 100. Close it. Now let's run the code again. You see now the first element, which is element 0, it's 5. Now the seventh element or the eighth element is 100. We put the seventh, and because we are starting from 0, then the seventh element is 8. Okay? As we mentioned, the array length is fixed and we can't change it after that. So let's add or let's assign element 11, okay, by a value of 500, and let's run the code. What will happen? Okay, so here is the exception in thread main, index 11 out of bounds for length 10. Okay, so it is this exception. You will always get it when you are out of bounds. Okay, now let's try another case where you put equal, less or equal than. Now let's see what will happen. You see, now you started from 0 until 9, and then exception thread index 10 out of bounds. Okay, so when you have index 10, it is out of bounds. It will be like element 11, and we don't have that. Okay, so be careful, don't put equal here. All right, as you see, we created a new array, we instantiated it with 10 elements. Now, then we started assigning the values to the numbers. Then we looped over the array. Now let's try the short way of initializing the array. Let's create a different type of arrays, which is string array, my, well, the square brackets, my string array, assign the value between curly brackets. As we mentioned, it will be shortcut. Now add some values. Nabil, Mark, John, Michael. So we created a string array with 1, 2, 3, 4 elements. We immediately create the array and then instantiate it with the 4 elements. Okay, now let's print it to the console. All right, run the code. Oops, I should change the array here. Now let's run it again. So Nabil, Mark, John, Michael. Now let's print to the console individual name, like how we can access individually. Then my string array, put the brackets, then put any index. Again, you should start from 0 to the end. So it'll be 0, 1, 2, 3. 3 is the last index. Okay, 3, let me show you 3 here. If we put 3, what name it will be? If you put 4, you will be out of bound. So you will have the out of bound exception. Okay. Now, as we mentioned in the slides, arrays in Java are homogeneous. That means when we have an array of type int, we can't assign a value to an element and change the type to double or string. Now I will show you an example with my int array. Okay, my int array. Let's assign the first element and assign it a value of type string. Will be name. Close it. Now you see it will, the IDE will not allow you to do that. I will show you. Okay, if you hover over it, it will show you provided string. The required type is int. If you put a double, let's say it's number double, then it will show you an error double. Okay, you can cast it. Okay, you can cast the number and the problem will be solved, but I will show you what will be the value of 0. Let's comment out the rest of the code and the code here. So the value is 5. So we truncated the decimals, and that's error. Okay, that's wrong. So let's comment out the code here. Okay, and let's create another examples of arrays, like double array will be like this, brackets, my double, assign it a new double of array elements of 10, then my double will be a value of 1. Let's put it, assign it a value of 5.5. Okay, now let's copy paste the value, I double here. Okay, now let's run the code. You see, because it is double, we can see 0 0.0, which is the default value if you don't put any value. Okay, and the second element, which is number 1, is 5.5 as we assign it. All right, another example, which is like a char array. Okay, the same way, my char, add the values of j colon a colon. You can't put double quotes because it will be considered as a string. Okay, if you hover over it, string provided char needed. Okay, so it will be only single quote v. The last element will be a again. We mentioned previously a string is a character array, right? Now, if we want to print my char array, okay, let's not put any line, so we delete only print, okay, and run the code. You see now it's printing Java. If we add the line, will be Java. Every letter will be in the uh, different line. Let's give an object example other than a string. Let's use scanner, square brackets, my scanner, new scanner, and we have 3 of them. Just to not, don't forget to import it. The IntelliJ imported it automatically for me. Let's loop over the scanner and see what will print to the console. Let's comment out this loop, run the code. You see null, null, null. So in the object, when you don't initialize the values or assign a value to the elements in array, it will be null as a default value. Okay. So with this example, we came to an end of this lecture or this lesson. You can practice yourself, create a new array, assign new values, access the element, print them to the console. In the next video, we will continue learning about arrays and we will talk about a dynamic array or array lists. Thank you for watching. See you next video.